Hey guys, welcome back. In last video we saw how we can use class providers where we can provide alternate class with the help of use class provider. Use class property. Now in this video we are going to see a real use case where we can create a dynamic module. So how we can take advantage of creating dynamic module. So sometimes we create module, we import it in our other modules, but sometimes we need to configure our modules dynamically while importing it. So this is what we are going to see in this tutorial. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create one new project from scratch. So let me write project name here, new nest dynamic module. I'm going to use PNP. So meanwhile it is coming up, so we are going to create a payment kind of service, a payment module. That will be a dynamic module which can accept different payment systems, let's say Stripe, PayPal, based on the environment. This is ideal for application needing runtime flexibility for modules like payment processing, logging, and or database connections. All right, so we are going to see something similar to this. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use Nest Dynamic. I'm going to go in that folder, and now I will open it in VS Code editor. Okay, so as you know, this is a basic starter code of Nest.js app. We have few files in src. We have the main one module that you can also say it as root module, although Nest.js doesn't see any module as root or children. It does see it as individual. If we talk about the container dependency contains, this is separate from all other modules. Even other modules are nested. Okay, so that's not this video topic. So we'll start from learning what is dynamic module. So as we already discussed, we can provide dynamically some configurations. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create one service. So this time I'm not going to use CLI for now. Okay, let's do one thing. First, let's create one interface. What we can create? Okay, so all right, let's create direct. File here interface.ts. We could have created one separate module as well, but let's do it here only. Payment interface. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create one interface, export const, and here payment provider. And this payment provider is kind of abstract thing. We don't have the definitions here. We don't have the details. We just have one method name, and depending on like what we are using, it will be implemented. Amount, so we are passing the amount, and this will process the payment. Okay, understand there can be other steps as well, but just to understand the functionality how it will work, we are just taking the amount as parameter. All right, now since we have this interface, what we can do is we can create different services for different payment in systems. So let's do one thing. Okay, what I can do here, I can create one folder, payments, and I can move it here in the payments folder, and this will be consistent. All the files related to payments will be here. So next what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create one Stripe service. So I'll write stripe dot service dot ts. Okay, now in Stripe service, how you can create a service, export class Stripe service. Okay, this should be injectable. We'll be using singleton scope, and this should extend this should extend, I mean it should implement from, not extend, we are actually using interface. We should implement it from payment provider so that we can override the method. We can put the definition of it, payment, what event, payment, was it payment provider or payment, yeah, payment provider. Okay, now this is throwing some error here, so what we can do, we can just do quick fix and implement process payment. I'm gonna remove this, and now we can do other steps. We can do login, I mean real processing thing here, but looking at the scope of this application, we are not going into the how we do the how we actually do the payment thing. So the reason why I'm putting $$ is like this, from here to here it is part of the variable, but this dollar is actually the amount. So currency symbol, so first dollar is currency symbol. So how it will look like is, let's say the process $10 payment with Stripe. So this will be the text will be getting it from here. Okay. Similarly, I'm gonna create one more file for PayPal service.ts. It's just a folder. Remember, it's just a folder. So never confuse folder structure with the module structure. So you can I mean visually, if you want to see modules in hierarchy, then that will not happen, since dependency injection is something which is separate for each modules. It is in parallel, and the hierarchy can be anything, anyway you can put any files anywhere. So that's fine until unless we create a module, we import those things in module. That will not be part of, until unless we do that, that will not be part of the module itself. So the virtual structure is something else, and from the physical, like what we see it here. Okay, I don't know like if I'm able to explain, but the idea is like we can create anything here. Ideally that is not part of any module until unless we import. Okay, so in payment PayPal service TS, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one class, export class payment PayPal service, and again I'm just going to make this injectable, and I want to create it only once at startup, so I'll keep it default scope. Otherwise we could have passed here scope, right? Even if you pass, let's say even if you pass, we can put scope dot default, so that is same thing. Okay, now here if I implement this with payment provider, and we can implement payment process payment method and return some text here, like same text. I can use the same text. We'll just replace it with the word Stripe, from the from Stripe to PayPal, but both are different, right? We could have done some complex stuffs here as well. Now since now we have the payment interface, we have two different payment systems which are implementing it from the payment provider interface. Means these two classes are having similar types. Okay, now the thing is we want to create a module. So let's create a payment module. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here, I could have created with the CLI, but the reason why I'm typing it so that I can show you how we can create everything from scratch. So payment.module.ts. Okay, so you could have named it with anything. You can name it payments.module. You can name it payment.module. So that is completely optional, or let it be payments module, so that it looks like we can use some multiple things here, different steps. Or if we are keeping it everything in inside here in singular, then what we can do, we can keep it payment, and we can also change it to payment. The idea is to be consistent. Okay, now I'm going to create a class, payment module. Till now this is just a simple normal class in JavaScript, empty class. Until unless we write it here module, it doesn't become a Nest.js module. Okay, now we have the things here. We can, if we define it here, we can use it directly like a normal module, a static module. But what we want is, instead of providing the steps here, we don't want user to directly import and use it. Instead we want people to use it dynamically. So what we are going to do, we are going to create a method, static register. So we are going to create a method, you can create with any name, static register, and I'm just going to put it dynamic, put its type as dynamic module, and then what we can do, we can take one parameter, provider type. We can take two options, Stripe or PayPal. We can also create a type here as well. Let's say type, could we do it in the class, or we should do it outside? I don't see any problem like creating a type here inside a provider type. Let's try it out and see if this works inside the class. Will it work? No. I'm confused now. So we just wanted to do the same thing, but since, okay, why this is not working, the reason why I'm typing it here. So class is also kind of type, and the type is also a type it. So what we can do, we can write it here, and in case if we need to use it in some other place, we can do it if we use export. So type is not a variable, it's a actually data type. Similarly, like class is also data type, so that's why it was throwing error. And now instead of this hardcode value, what we can do is we can pass this provider type here. We have already imported dynamic module, but this error will be coming until unless we return all the properties which is required for the dynamic module. So what we are gonna do here is we are going to use provider. Okay, and we are going to create this variable, and we are going to write one condition, provider type equal to Stripe. Then we are going to use provider equal to Stripe service, and else, or let's say like you want to have multiple steps. For now, like we have two things, so we can just put else provider equal to PayPal. No, not string, we want service. What we are doing here is like we are creating a variable, and that will have like a service class based on what provider type we are passing. And the reason why I'm keeping it in this variable, why it is throwing error, so we can do any edge type, and based on return, I mean based on this provider we can so in normal module what we use is imports, we use providers, we use controllers, we use exports, and okay, that's it. I mean the basic things we use here. But here what are the required things are, let's say we need to provide the name of module. So what we can do is we can write payment module, and next what we can do is we can write providers. So this will be an array, and either we can just write this. So if we pass this provider, the name of service will become provider, but we don't want to have its name as provider. So what we are going to do, we are going to write custom provider here. So we'll write a provide and keyword and put it a token. We can name it as payment provider, and now we can access it, this service with this keyword. We can inject this keyword token, and what we can do is we can use class, and since this is a class, and we can write provider, and what else exports. In exports we can use this payment provider. Now if we don't write it here, then this payment provider, wherever it is imported, I mean for this payment module, when dependency container will be created, it won't expose this token as public. It won't be available in the module where we are using it. So that's the reason why we need to export it. Or we could have used the class name directly if you would have used the normal providers just with the provider name, but we wanted to modify the name. That's why we didn't use the provider keyword here directly, the class. Instead we use this. Otherwise we could have used this keyword as well, but right now we just wanted to modify it. Okay, that's the, I mean, better way to do it. Other provider is just a very generic thing. Okay, now why this is throwing an error? This is an error. Then what we can do, we need to pass one interface, I guess, modules name. Okay, so we need to pass the class itself. We need to pass the class itself. That's why it was throwing error. We do not have any controllers. We do not have provider, controllers, export, import. We do not have any import as well, so we are not using it. I can remove it from here. Now what we can do is we can import this module in our app module. Let's say this app module. So how we will be importing it? So since this is a module, we want to import it, and this is a dynamic module. Okay, and we created a method register. In that, let me just import it first, then this option will appear. So now we have this property register method on payment module, and it says like it accepts one argument. So what is this argument? So basically what we can pass in register is we can pass, I mean process.env dot payment provider as Stripe. As Stripe So why I have written it like we might be getting Stripe or PayPal from here, so I just provided it the syntax a type for it. If I don't do it, like it will throw some error since we want this to be type Stripe or PayPal. Okay, now we have provided dynamically called this method, call this initialize this payment module. So that's why it is a dynamic module. So before, like in creating instance of uh, any services, we are just initializing it with this configuration. Okay, so you might be wondering how we can access this. Definitely you can access all these things. If for that, what we need to do is we need to use config module. So let's install the config. If I can show you pnpm, I think we use pnpm, right? pnpmi, what was it, Nest.js config, I guess. Okay, now we can pass config module for root. Okay, we are not passing any properties. Like we could have passed here file env file path is global, other stuffs, like there are so many things. You can definitely check it out. By default, if I don't pass anything here, I believe if I go here in config option, so if you see default is true, environment paths to be loaded. Okay, environment variable can be edited through this function. Okay, by default I believe this should pick it from .env, since in config module actually we it uses .env internally. That's why it automatically process whatever we write here. So let's say we want to use this environment variable, and we want to pass something as people, then this should pass this people as configuration, and our system will start up as a people payment processor. Okay, so what we can do, how we can test it out. So to do that, what we are going to do in app service, this is our main service, app service. So let's create one constructor here so that we can inject our service constructor. And here in constructor, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna inject private read only. And so why we use read only, so that we can, this variable will be assigned once and then it won't be. So private read only, we can use payment provider, and at rate inject here we need to pass the token. What is the token? Payment provider. So we need to pass this token here, then this service will be injected. And why we are getting this error? Okay, let's try to use the use our interface and see if it is working. Yeah, it's working. So this payment provider is of type payment provider, and we can inject it with this token. Now what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna use this payment provider method, I mean service, and call process payment, and let's say the amount, any amount we are getting it from here. So I'll just, for simplicity, I will just use amount parameter, and it could be like number. We'll have to pass if it is not a number, and string. It returns as text, right? So that's why it is string. And in controller, what we can do, we can let's say we want to use payment, so we can use say pay, and we want to use query param at red query. For simplicity, let's use query. Otherwise, we could have also used uh, what we can say body at red body as well, but we want to pass it in amount, and then I can map it with the uh, let's say the variable name could be amount, and this will be a string or number, and if it is not a number, then it will be passed to number. Usually the query will be in a string, but it will convert it to number. And here I just need app service, and I can use payment. Oh, what was the method here in app service? We didn't change the method name. Okay, so here we can do make payment, right? And now if I use this same method here and pass this amount, so now let me show you step by step. For now, I'm just going to remove this so that it won't throw up some error. Okay, now I'm going to show you step by step. Let's say the first we will triggers localhost 3000 slash pay. It will first pass, we'll have to pass question mark amount equal to something, then it will be, we'll get this here. And we are going to use this app service instance to call this make payment of it and pass the amount, and this will actually use a payment provider instance which is dynamically decided based on the configuration we passed here. Like we decided like I will be using environment variable. So in environment variable we have used PayPal, so it will be actually configure it with the PayPal, registered with the PayPal, so it will initialize the instance of PayPal service. And so here in app service, when we are using payment provider and when we are trying to process it, so it will call the process payment of PayPal service. All right, this one. And so it should print, it should return from here like process dollar, the amount which we are passing payment with PayPal. And now when it will be returned, it will back to get it will be returned here, and this will eventually return it in controller as well, and that we will see again in browser. So let me run this server. I'm gonna quickly refresh it and see if this is coming up. Okay, let me check what is happening. Make payment doesn't exist on app service. Why? I'll have to save it. Just wait for a second. Now we can go back. Since we have used route as pay, now we are getting process payment, undefined payment. Although these things we can handle definitely, but as we decided, like we need to pass amount here, let's say $100, then we are getting process payment with the PayPal $100. If we are using 5 or 400, then we will be getting this message. So we can do one more thing here. We can try to change the payment processor here in env and return it with the Stripe, and now see if this works. Are we going to get the Stripe? So since we have updated the environment variable here, what I think is like we'll have to restart, since this file is not being tracked. As you see, like this is not highlighted, this is kind of disabled thing. So if we do any change here, it won't be tracked. So that's why I have restarted my server, and now if I try to refresh it, I can see Stripe here. So one more thing, we can try it out. We used config module, right? So let's see if I comment it out. So will this payment provider work, or it is going to throw some error? So let's try it out. and I'll have to go back where okay, I'll have to go back. uh, Here we are using Stripe, we are getting PayPal. I don't know how we are getting PayPal, but let me restart it again and see what is happening. Okay, still we are getting PayPal, but how? So okay, so if I go back in app module, so it's trying to find payment provider. I didn't find it. If I go back in register, so what happened, since we are not passing anything, we are actually setting PayPal provider, PayPal service, right? That's why it is defaulting to PayPal. So we could have so this I mean this payment provider, if we are not using config module, this is null. So why this is working? So actually under the hood, config module uses .env library, which is actually which can read env files. By default, .env will be read by the .env when we initialize the .env module. So that's why with the default, I mean this is also a dynamic module, but we are not passing, we are using all the default configurations. So here in default configuration, it is able to read from the .env file. Alright, that was it from this video. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.